Hi everybody. In this video I'm going to show you how to control noise. Now you're probably thinking, what do you mean by that? Basically all I want to hear is when I'm out detecting with my Manticore is I want to hear ferrous targets and non-ferrous targets. I don't want to hear EMI. I don't want to have a noisy machine that when I go over hot rocks I hear those. I want to have just either good or bad targets coming through my earphones, and the false targets that I get from iron, I want to have a mixture of good and bad sounds so that I can actually tell what is and isn't worth digging. So okay, so let's go a bit further into the actual noises. What do I mean by this? Basically three types of noises. You have EMI noises, you have ground noises, and then the third is machine noises. Okay, now the machine noises hopefully were sorted out all by the engineers before they actually released the Manticore. And really, when I say machine noise now, we're not going to really see a lot of machine noise until coils start deteriorating after 4 or 5 years. Then you might get wet grass sensitivity, and you might get knock noise when you actually hit things like maize stubble. So hopefully all you need to worry about is the other two noises, which is EMI and ground noise. Now EMI noise is a straightforward thing to sort out. You just basically drop the sensitivity a bit, put it through noise cancel and let it roll so you get a consistent number. Okay, so that's straightforward. The ground noise is a little bit more complicated. You can ground balance, especially if the ground is uneven, because just the actual lifting and lowering the coil can actually give you false targets. But also you can control the makeup, the false stuff like hot rocks, mineralisation changes, that sort of thing, by adjusting the sensitivity and also the stabilizer feature. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go into the field now. I'll show you how I set it up and hopefully you'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're on what I call noisy ground, and if you have a listen you can see how noisy this can be. I'm using this in my previous settings. I was on pasture. Okay, as you can see it's very hard to work out if there are good signals there or not. Possibly one there, but very, very noisy. So we're going to have to make this a lot quieter, and that's so we're going to adopt what I've just previously demonstrated. Okay, so first of all we turn the sensitivity down to 22. Okay, so immediately that should be a lot quieter. Now we're going to do a rolling noise cancel. Let's see if I can get that. Okay, so 9, consistent 9 is pretty good. Next thing is to hold the coil off the ground, and now we can tweak up the sensitivity. Okay, it's just starting to chirp now. So 25 is probably going to be pretty good. Now that will be the highest setting, sensitivity setting that's possible on this field today. Okay, so let's go. That's that. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to ground balance. Now we're going to ground balance because although it looks quite even, this ground, there is stubble. So I am going to be raising the coil up and down over the stubble. Now that, as you can hear, is going to cause noise. Yeah, so it's quite close. It's 44 now. Okay, now we're going to adjust the recovery rate. Okay, at the minute it's at 4. Now I'm going to take it to 6 because this is a very, very noisy site. There's lots of iron. It's a habitation site that's been habitated right from the Roman times right up to the 17th century. So there's a lot of iron, there's a lot of ceramics, and there's a lot of mineralisation, hot rocks, that sort of thing. So basically we want the recovery speed at 6 is going to make all the noise very short and sharp, rather than if you do a very low recovery rate, it's going to enhance it, make it bigger. So because we're not going to be digging 2 feet in this soil because of all the mineralisation and everything else, the makeup of the soil, we're going to be concentrating in that first 8 inches. Now, a recovery rate of 6 is ideal for a depth of 8 inches with the standard coil in these situations. So if we swing the coil now, immediately you can hear the noise is become a lot more manageable. So the next thing we can do, we can actually improve it a bit more. You can hear there's still like a constant chatter as we swing the coil. So we're going to go to the stabilizer feature. Now with the stabilizer feature, I'm going to leave the filter off, and the stabilizer I'm going to go straight to 4. This pretty much is my go-to setting. Either I have it off or I have it at 4. But other people have different opinions, at which they're entitled to. But this is how I use it. So we'll come out now, get back to there, and if you listen now, I mean, you still want to hear the iron, but you just don't want to hear all that other row. So there's a target there. Probably a small piece of lead. On this particular site, you basically dig everything. I have had hammered coins at a 5. So that's 9 or 10. Okay. Now, okay, small piece of lead, but it stood out. You didn't have to fight to hear that amongst all the noise. Okay, so that's the first target here, but it actually makes it more fun getting rid of the noise. I mean, you can now, you don't have to work hard, you have to concentrate on every last noise. Now you want to hear the iron. I don't classify any sort of iron, ferrous or non-ferrous targets, proper targets, as just noise. I need to hear the iron, because when you get a false target which is coming through with a high pitch, if you can hear on the fringes of the target an iron, and you then can see it jumping around, the TID's jumping around, maybe going into the red, then you know it's going to be iron. I mean, this type of detecting on this type of field, you're always digging those iffy signals. The trick is to dig as few as possible iffy signals. So like this here, you can hear there's a high pitch coming in there, but you can tell as you're swinging it, it's iron, and then it's breaking through as a non-ferrous target, but it's going to be iron every time. And you can confirm that. You see whether it's building up the heat map on the scale is there, and the number is a solid 36 red. So these are the iron targets, but you want to hear the iron targets. See that there is, it sounds good, but if you listen to it, there's iron. It's an iron target that's breaking through, so that again is iron. And this time, if you look at the screen, but that is iron. It's loud, and if it was a good target, there'd be no doubt about it. It would be on the center line, because it'd be shallow, so it'd be on that line, and that is iron on the surface. So you would never dig that target. Hopefully you can hear that. And you can see why I ground balance, because I'm sort of raising it above this stubble. You hear that high pitch that pulls you up, but then you check it and the machine will usually suss out that it's iron. If you've got a fast recovery rate, we can move across this ground quite quickly. But it's very, 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 very doable now. This is one of the hardest sites that I ever go on. There is usually so much noise, every hot rock. But we've pretty much eliminated that. The noise, the negative noises you can hear now are iron. And you can hear how that's breaking through. That's a classic iron target. Very low non-ferrous, about number 3. I mean, it could be something. It doesn't sound like a lot of guts to it, so it's going to be a small piece of foil or a small piece of lead. I'll just take off the surface. I've pretty much disturbed it enough to silence it. I think we're literally after. Yep, ignore that one. Okay, so that's got more oomph to it. 11, 12, still very low. Usually small hammers come in at sort of closer to 20, but saying that on this particular site skeets have come in quite low. So let's see what it is. It's probably a piece of lead if I had to guess. Let's bend that up a bit. That's a piece of lead. But at least there's a bit more oomph to that. That last signal before this one was very, very tiny. As soon as I disturbed the ground, it pretty much just lost the target. So, but that's a small piece of lead. Comes in about 10. We get excited usually sort of 19s and above. These are the potentially good targets. Well, this is a very irregular shaped object. Sounds definitely not non-ferrous, but very strange. Jumping around a bit. Worth having a look. Could be, I've had like thin pins on here. Little Saxon pins that are sort of long, and they give sort of weird sort of stretch signals. So I wonder if this is another one. Well, that's a surprise. It's actually a shotty end, just a little firing nipple. Very strange signal off of that, but it got it. This ground has absolutely been hammered by clubs and everything, so there's very few signals left. But that, I didn't expect that. Something in the makeup of that gave it a really long type target. You could tell it was non-ferrous, but very odd. Right, is it a pin or is it copper nail? Copper nail. Oh well. I think that's a copper nail. Yeah, nothing special. Well, quite an odd type signal, bit of a mess, but it must be, it's definitely non-ferrous. Be interesting to see what it is. Well, I'll tell you what it isn't, it's not in my hand. There we go. It's that, which is part of a brooch. Is it a Le 10? It's definitely part of a brooch. If you can see that, that's where it would have held the a spring. It's well knackered, and that's the catch plate, that end. So yeah, a brooch. Very strange signal. It was all over the place. The great thing about the actual the target trace on the Manticore is that if it's a round coin, you can usually see that it's a round coin. Something irregular like this will actually throw different magnetic fields every which way, so it tends to be a big splat and sounds horrible, but as you saw on the actual target trace, it was all within that good area, so we knew it wasn't iron. Okay, so that's the first old thing today. There's that brooch, probably Roman. Probably I got a bit excited, thought it was a Le 10, but it's probably not. It's probably Roman. I did have a very nice bit of decorated metal, which I believe is actually part of a large Saxon brooch. So that was really nice. Didn't catch that on camera, but a nice find. And a little lead stacking weight, which I don't think I've ever found one made of lead, one of these little stacking weights. That's it. And then there's a little loop thing, the obligatory bit of medieval little buckle or a suspension loop, and lots of bits of lead. Picked up a flint, tried to make that into an arrowhead, but it's not. And that's it. So all these settings work. This is your sort of average day, And if you make it nice and quiet, you get to hear these signals on all these signals have come from a very, very worked out site. So that is a good day on that site.